if we don't know what their desired outcome is, what are we doing in customer success? Like if we go with my definition, then if you don't know their desired outcome, I'm not saying that you're not working really hard. I'm not saying that you're not trying your best. But what I am saying is you simply can't be doing customer success because what are you solving for? It's amazing what happens when you take into consideration the other person's, like what they're trying to accomplish. It really changes everything. It changes your position as a CSM in their mind. They look at you now as a trusted advisor, the thing that everybody talks about, trusted advisor, authority position, all that stuff. When you start talking about them, it elevates you. When you're talking about your product, you kind of just you're not elevated. You're kind of demoted to just being like a product specialist in their mind, and you're not really strategically valuable. But there's a second secret reason for customer success. Right? You ready for this?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño, a passionate about customer success, a customer success nerd. And just like you, I'm still learning about this amazing world of customer success. And today is not going to be the exception. Today, we have an amazing guest with us. Today, we will be focusing on customer desired outcomes. Is real, that's real, and it's important it's key actually to long-term success. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Without having this desired outcome from our customers, we cannot be strategic. It's going to be really hard to understand and predict the future and guide them towards what they're looking for, and even to show value and deliver those outcomes that they are expecting to receive. The reason why they purchase the product as well, and go deeper into this. So there's a lot to talk about today. And who else than one of the most influential voices in customer success with us here today? One of the earliest OGs of customer success with 15 plus years of experience, unless you're hiding the number here, Lincoln. But today we have with us Lincoln Murphy. He's the founder of 16 Ventures, co-founder of Impact Academy. You're also a podcast host, co-author of Customer Success, How Innovative Companies Are Reducing Churn and Growing Recurring Revenue. I'm talking about this
There it
book.
is.
And also your latest book, Maximizing Lifetime Value, which we will also talk about. And there's a number that I have to throw out here, Lincoln,
Okay.
which is you have a newsletter called Customer Engagement and Growth.
Yes.
You have 8,600 plus subscribers only in that newsletter. Isn't that amazing? Thank you so much for being here with us, Lincoln.
Yeah,
Welcome to Customer
absolutely.
Success.
Thank you for having me. Yes. Yeah, that's just the one on LinkedIn, by the way. That's just the LinkedIn number. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you having me. This is going to be awesome. I'm super excited for this. So yeah, let's get going.
Let's do it. But before we do talk about the power of desired outcomes and how to make that discovery and what is that, what is the definition of that, and hearing all your insights, I do have two questions to begin, kind of to break the ice, because now that I have both books, I have this one, the Customer Success, and then the Customer Success Professional Handbooks. Both
Right.
books are the two that I will recommend anyone that is in customer success. It's like the Bible for me of customer success. But what are the difference? Why they're both similar, don't you think? Or is there anything behind?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot. So books are interesting. And there's a lot of story there. And by the way, I mean, there will be a third book on your list, which is Maximizing Lifetime Value, which is my new book.
Yeah.
That's coming out and it's already out. You can buy it. It's not published yet, so it's only digital. Getting a lot of really interesting feedback, making a lot of changes to it. The process I'm going through now is completely different than the process we went through with the original Blue Book. So that was 2015, so like 10 years ago.
Literally.
Literally, so we are at 10 years. Wiley, the publisher, came to us being Gainsight, which was the software company that I worked for at the time. I joined Gainsight. I was already out sort of promoting this concept of customer success, and Gainsight got some funding, and we were like, well, they want to build the product category around customer success management software. And to do that, you kind of need to build up the people that will use the software, right? So
Right.
you have to build up the professionals, you have to build up the profession, you have to build up just a demand for this thing inside the business that is what we call customer success management. I was already doing that. They got money. We said, "Hey, let's come together and let's use their platform and their money to kind of send me around the world and evangelize this concept of customer success." So for the 2 years that I was with Gainsight, I didn't really talk about Gainsight. I
Mhm.
wasn't out there promoting that. I was promoting customer success, just evangelizing that, and I would go anywhere and everywhere that I possibly could to talk about customer success. If you would have me, I would come to your event and talk about this.
Cool.
So really spending a lot of time, like promoting this just to get people, like, just like, what even is this thing? Why is it important? Well, we were pretty successful in doing that. And to the extent that customer success became a thing well enough known by a publishing company like Wiley, which is
Mhm.
the publisher of that book, they came to us and they said, um, we want to write a book on customer success. You guys are the experts. You guys being Nick Mehta, the CEO, Dan Steinman, the chief customer officer of Gainsight, and me being the customer success evangelist.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody. Um, there was a point, like I was starting to get kind of frustrated at Gainsight. Like
Mhm.
I was out spreading the good word about customer success. Um, there were changes happening in the company that I didn't really like. I kind of wanted to leave. They said, we want you to be on this book. I didn't want to be a part of the book.
Okay.
Um, I was like, I remember we were at Dreamforce, um, and the head of marketing came to me and said, "Listen, man, if you're not going to be on the book, they won't publish the book." And I said, "All right, I'll be on the book, but you credit me as founder of 16 Ventures. Don't credit me as part of Gainsight."
Right. Right.
That was basically that was the concession. And so I was just, because I was just frustrated with the way things had evolved. Look, I mean, bottom line is when I joined Gainsight, it was a tiny little company. A couple of years later, we had a lot more funding. It was a much more structured company. I wasn't having fun.
Yeah.
There's just that kind of thing. Nothing in particular, but I kind of wanted to just separate, and they were like, "No, if you're not going to be on the book, we're not going to publish it." So they were like, "Please." I was like, "Okay."
Right.
So then we go through the book process. Dan did a lot of the heavy lifting and gathering all the information. I provided a ton of information. And what's really interesting, and this is the behind the scenes stuff. So you had Dan pulling everything together, me and Nick, contributing all of our ideas and thoughts on customer success. Dan sort of pulled it all together. He kind of chose what fit. So here's kind of one of the things that people don't really think about is what he pulled together was the stuff that fit the narrative of Gainsight. Because
Right.
remember, Gainsight is a software company.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about something and so that original blue book that that you showed, like that was really the first customer success book. It's very much a high level overview of what customer success is. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, it doesn't get super tactical. It doesn't get super operational. And so the,
Right.
the follow-on book that you showed, which I was not involved with, it is a little bit more
Professional's handbook.
tactical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more tactical, a little bit more operational, a little bit more organizational. Still very much within the narrative of what Gainsight wants to put out there. So if you think about it from that standpoint, some of the things that I contributed that I wanted to be included in the book, like desired outcome, that we're going to talk
Yeah.
about today.
Yeah.
Desired outcome is not a new concept. I was already using that. I was already talking about that. I was already consulting companies on implementing that. but it was excluded from the book. The only reason I can think of was that it was not something that Gainsight as a product was equipped to um, to work with, to handle. Um,
Oh.
and so there were some concepts that I believed were just core to customer success, which were not included in that first book because they didn't fit the Gainsight narrative. And then, so whatever was pulled together was then sent to Wiley. And so you had stuff from me, from Dan, and from Nick. It goes to Wiley, and the editor at Wiley basically pulled it all together into the book that you have in your hands.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because so when you read it, it's got one voice, except for all the like the blog posts that are in the middle that are written by other people. But like the rest of the book is one voice, but there's three co-authors.
Yeah.
So it's really weird for me to read it because because really who wrote the book? I mean, like who put it together?
Who
you know,
did the
sort of-
research?
I mean, who took the information was so who did the research? Who pulled all the good stuff together was us. And Dan, wrote like he kind of wrote the first draft or whatever, I guess, of it. And then the editor took it and shaped it from the pure Gainsight narrative to whatever Wiley thought was going to be appropriate. Okay.
Gotcha.
So you had, and that doesn't include adding things, right?
Yeah.
They edit, they reduce things. So to me, my relationship with that book is it's this thing that exists that has my name on it that I did some initial work on, but like it was already in my mind kind of outdated when it first came out because there were some concepts in there that were not included. And there were just some other concepts that I thought were sort of core to what customer success was at the time, and they weren't included. And then there were some things that were included that I thought were not really the right way to look at it. Like even back then, looking at something like the touch, like high touch, tech touch, touch levels of engagement is the wrong way to look at engaging customers because a customer it's not about like the customer isn't a touch level. The customer has what we call an appropriate experience. So we'll talk about that in just a second when we get into desired outcome. Anyway, so it's very interesting, right? The book is the narrative of Gainsight as a software company edited by Wiley to fit the narrative that they wanted.
And do you identify with the book?
Do
yes
I?
Or no? Yeah. Do you identify with the book? No.
No.
Okay.
No. It's a love-hate relationship. From a love standpoint, it gave me a ton of credibility.
Right. Yeah.
But the hate standpoint is why did that give me the credibility when all of the other work that I did seemed to not matter as much, if that makes sense. Like that blog post that I wrote, that people just kind of throw away because it was just a blog post. That thing has more like actionable, like is more powerful than to me what's in that book.
Yeah.
Because it's a book, you have credibility.
And
so, yeah. Anyway, that's where we're at.
No, and it's super interesting. Thank you for sharing that because these are books that we always read and we recommend to everyone, but we never know what happens behind scenes. And I think that there are still really amazing books for everyone to read. They're both, one is the blue one. I feel it is more like in the how like in a standpoint of view from a company and organization, how they will proceed with customer success. And the professional's handbook is more like for the individual collaborator, that it give us more what building relationships, the roles, the customer journey, white space. So I think they both have what they can give.
They do. So here's the thing though, and I don't listen. This is really tough because I never want to. I never want to be like, oh, you like that book, like trying to make make somebody feel bad because they like a particular book. It's good. It's fine. The problem is, again, it was written 10 years ago. It was published in 2016. It was already somewhat outdated. And so there's just if you go off of just that,
Mhm.
you're working off of some very old ideas.
Right.
Okay. So to me, it's an interesting place to start, I guess.
Yep.
But I tell people, like, I mean, if we really want to get kind of, you know, like, I don't know, get real about it. The reality is the book is still relevant in that if you can take that book and overlay it on your customer success strategy and it matches, it means you're operating on a customer success strategy that's 10 years
10
old,
years ago. So the
right?
commercial side doesn't exist there.
I mean, there's just we've evolved so much. And so my
Mhm.
new book, and I'm not just promoting that, but like the reason I even thought about writing a new book is because we have progressed so far. And the way that we look at what customer success is, like, literally the definition of customer success has changed. So my definition of customer success now is when our customers achieve their desired outcome
Mhm.
through their relationship with us. That's changed. There was at one point it was they achieved their desired outcome through the use of our product, right? Well, no, it's not through the use of our product. It's not just through their interactions with us. It's actually through their relationship with us, because the relationship is made up of interactions plus context,
Yeah.
right? That's really important. The desired outcome piece, that has evolved. And again, that's not even in that book. Desired outcome is that's also changed and evolved as we've learned more. I mean, all of these things, I mean, look, the more these ideas and concepts that we came up with 10 years ago had contact with customers, and we're pressure tested in reality, the more we learn,
Yeah.
right? You learn some things don't work, you learn some things do, but you have to evolve them, right? And I think that's the thing that I guess I get kind of frustrated with. I mean, I remember recently I talked to the head of customer success, like a CCO at a company that everybody would know about. I'm not going to say who it was. I'm under no NDA or anything. I was just talking to him, but I'm not going to mention. But it was like I was talking to somebody from 10 years ago. And I'm like,
Wow.
how, why, how is this person at this level and they haven't evolved their thinking about this stuff? And I mean, I was telling them all these things that we're going to talk about, and they were just like, oh, wow, they're taking notes. And I'm like, this is insane. This person is in a very significant leadership role, and they're thinking about customer success like
And
it was
that's
10 years ago.
and that's also the big impact that we can bring as individual collaborators from the bottom top, being updated with the industry insights, being updated with what is going on,
Yes.
creating that impact. Because, and this is where I want to go. Your philosophy is that if companies focuses on the customer's desired outcome, adoption, retention, and expansion will naturally follow.
Yes.
What do you mean with that, Lincoln?
Look, if we're trying, okay, so if we go back to what the definition of customer success is, I just said it's when our customers achieve their desired outcome through their relationship with us. Okay.
Yeah.
If we don't know what their desired outcome is, what are we what are we doing in customer success? Like, if we go with my definition, then if you don't know their desired outcome, I'm not saying that you're not working really hard. I'm not saying that you're not trying your best. But what I am saying is you simply can't be doing customer success, because what are you solving for?
What is the success then?
Right.
Yeah.
What are you solving for is probably something like just getting them to use the product. Again, this is no fault, by the way, on the individual contributor. And that's why I wanted to be on your podcast, because I want to talk to the individual contributor, the person doing this work, the person new to customer success who's like, what even am I supposed to be doing? Because maybe they are in a situation where you have a leader that has outdated views on things. They're not really a leader at all, and you're kind of fending for yourself, because unfortunately that still very much happens. So as an individual contributor, you have to seek out resources like this podcast. You have to go get training. We have it at Impact Academy for CSMs, but whatever, go find training.
And there
Pick up.
is a lot out there.
There's a lot out there. also say that there's a lot of garbage out there.
Yeah.
Be really careful. Make sure that you're learning from people that are that I mean, I could go on. I
You
have
can mention you
stories,
can
man.
mention
I
some of
have
them.
I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but I will tell you that there's a lot of training that's still derivative of some of the stuff I was doing at Gainsight. So at Gainsight, I had Customer Success University. We had the very first customer success training ever
Yeah.
in the world. We had it associated with one of the Pulse events in San Francisco. We had people from all over the world come and take the training, and that was how like I got invited to Brazil for the first time, and how basically we brought customer success to Brazil. Like me, one company there was already doing it. They brought me down. We spread customer success throughout Brazil. Um, that training, when I left Gainsight, was turned over to a group of guys that started a training program. I'm not going to I'm not going to name them because I don't want anybody to. I don't want to throw them under the bus because I'm not like that. But I also don't want to give them any props because.
Yeah.
But basically, their training is derivative of what was turned over to them from Customer Success University, and to my understanding, has not changed much. So you really have to pay attention to like what are the trends out there, what's going on, and then look for training that seems to match that.
Yeah.
So if you're really paying close attention to what people are talking about nowadays, and you look at training like you would look at Impact Academy, I hope, and you would say, hey, I think those guys are talking about things that are relevant today.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important, is that you find that training. But this is, as an individual contributor, to a to a large extent, you have to take this on yourself to go out and find that. Where possible, I love to work with teams and come in and do custom training. Sometimes companies send their entire group of CSMs to our Impact Academy training. But I will tell you, probably the majority of people that have gone through our training, I've trained tens of thousands of CSMs. The majority of people that go through our training go through it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they're going to get reimbursed or something, but like this isn't something that their organization facilitated.
Yeah.
This is something that the individual contributor sought out. So
I think that's
you're
still
starting,
something that we're still struggling a lot as individual collaborators.
right?
The training part. The
And
companies expect us to know a lot, but then
yes,
the training part, then the maintenance of this knowledge, it's involving in the story driven, in the story and the data presentation with storytelling, for example, those skills that are also key. And when you say when the customer success, I mean, when the customer reach their desired outcomes, that is for your customer success. But then what is the desired
yes,
outcome?
okay.
What is
So
your definition of that? Because then that's where we can give something that people can start
totally,
implementing
yeah.
today.
So right there, like if you're going to go find training and they're not talking about customer success, and they're not talking about customer success in a way that is associated with, whether they use my terminology or not, some sort of outcome or goal for the customer. Like if it's not that, what you're going to learn is probably not customer success. Okay. So that's like a sanity check. So I'm not saying this training is bad, this training is good. I'm just saying, like, if you at least are in some sort of agreement with me on what customer success is, then just look at the training and say, are they talking about this as improving product usage, or are they talking about this as giving the customer what they're looking for as an outcome, as a job to be done, even as a goal? Because if that's not the case, then that's either old school customer success, or it's just something that's completely misguided and I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So we want to focus on, again, whatever you call this, but desired outcome is what I talk about. And it's made up of two things. And even this has evolved. So like if you learned what desired outcome was from me 5 or 6 years ago, like certainly like pre-COVID, it's changed a lot. So and I don't even honestly, I can't even remember what some of my earlier definitions were, but basically, desired outcome today is goal plus appropriate experience.
Mm,
You have to solve for both of those things. So let's break those down. So the goal. What's a goal? Well, this is one of those really interesting things, man, that like I find myself defining things that like why do we need to define this? Because as it turns out, even something as simple as a goal, not everybody agrees on what it is.
you
So
mean us or the customers?
like everybody, like
Mm, okay.
what is a goal? Most of the time, the people think of a goal as simply it's an objective. Okay, it's a thing that I want to achieve. Okay,
Mhm.
that's not wrong. That's just only half of the equation. A goal is an objective plus a time frame. And that might sound like, oh my gosh, Lincoln's on here talking about the simplest thing in the world. But I'm telling you, if we all agreed on this and this wasn't something I had to talk about, I wouldn't talk about it. But the reality is, most people get even the basic understanding of what a goal is wrong. But again, it's not wrong. It's just they only think about half of it. So what's a goal? Well, it's an objective plus a time frame. So what's an objective? Um, I want to add $100,000 in MRR to my business. So you have a CRM product. You're the CSM at a CRM company. Your customer says to you, well, maybe your customer says to you, I want to increase sales.
Mhm.
Is that a goal? No,
Mm.
that's not a goal.
Is that
But a
the
lot of
desired
times,
outcome?
that's nothing. I
No.
want to increase sales. What can I do with that?
So the
Of course, you
question
want
is
to.
how?
Right. So let's get into that. So exactly. I mean, so like a customer says to you, I want to increase sales. If you take that and you just like go with that, how do you operationalize around that? How do you help them achieve that? What is increased sales? I give you, you make one extra dollar. Is that success? You make $1 million extra dollars. Okay, that's maybe we're moving in the right direction, right? So and by the way, in what time frame do you need to increase these sales? So
Mhm.
as an individual contributor, you have to start doing what we call goal discovery. Okay.
Hey.
And this doesn't have to add much overhead. This doesn't have to be something you even have to do on one call or one meeting. You can do this over several meetings. You can do this partially over email, over chat, maybe when you're on a call with them. But basically, I want to understand when you say you want to increase sales, what I hear is, okay, they gave me a direction, but that's not a destination. Okay. So so I would say, they say I want to increase sales. You say, all right, cool. What exactly do you mean by that? Like how much how much do you need to increase sales? Well, we need to add $100,000 in new MRR. Okay, that's either incredibly doable or that's an insane goal that we can't reach. So I think what we need to do is define the time frame, right? Because
Mm,
$100,000 in MRR, if you need to increase, if you need that by next week, uh, that might not work. But if you need that within the next quarter, okay, that's something we can work with. So as an individual CSM, you need to be able to sort of get go through this discovery process. So in the goal discovery framework, we have it's really simple. It's what, when. So what is the very clear objective. So basically, you keep asking them to give you more details until you get to something that you could operationalize around, that you could build a plan around, right? I need to increase sales. That's not, I can't build a plan around that. We need to increase sales by $100,000. Okay, that's getting there. What should the makeup of that $100,000 in new MRR look like? Should the average contract value be $5,000? Should it be a bunch of $100 accounts? Should it be a couple of big accounts? We call that a qualifier.
mhm.
I want to understand because maybe maybe you reach that $100,000 in new MRR with two customers,
Yeah.
two big, huge customers. But as a company, that's not what we want. Is because that's too risky, right? You have too much risk, you have too much on just those two customers. Or on the flip side, you have, you get that, you reach that goal, but it's all like tiny $100 a month customers.
Yeah.
That as a company, that's not going to help our valuation. So you understand that as a company, we want most of that new revenue to come from $5,000 ACV clients. You know, so now what does that do for you as the CSM? Well, the way you would approach $100 customers through our platform, or the way you would approach $50,000 a month customers through our platform, or the way you would approach, your $5,000 a month customers through our platform, that's going to be different. So I can guide you more appropriately, knowing what your goal is. And the other thing is, maybe as a CSM, I'm not going to change my ways.
Yeah.
But knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish, I can maybe you're going to go through the exact same process as all my other customers, but knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish and being able to speak to that makes it feel like a more personalized experience.
It makes sense when a customer success manager, we are in that situation where sometimes the customers know that they have a challenge, but they also don't know what the reach that they can have with our product. So by going through this discovery and understanding what are their desired outcomes, what is that they are actually want to achieve, and then plus what you said, time frame is like, okay, would actually time frame be an obstacle? Because I think that the blockers can also prevent that to reach that goal. And that's where I want to touch with you on this one, because now, okay, what does the customer want to achieve? We have that vague goal, but then also we need to kind of understand, okay, once we are in that point where we understand and break it down, we also need to see what are the possible blockers.
Absolutely. Right. So first, you're right about time frame possibly being a blocker.
Yeah.
Like if you say you need to achieve this very specific goal, but the time frame you give is unrealistic, I as the CSM need to tell you that.
How can I challenge the customer then, Lincoln?
Just tell them. I mean, this is the thing. A lot of times we overthink this.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, then write this down, and this is something you need to talk to your head of customer success about, or talk to your team. Maybe you can Slack people right when you're talking to the customer and be like, hey, this guy wants to add $100,000 in new revenue in the next month. Is this possible? Have any of you ever done this? But here's the thing I would do is I would say, gosh, that seems pretty aggressive. Do you think that's possible from your end? Our product will support that. Obviously, our product will allow you to create records and close deals that fast. But do you believe on your end that that's a realistic number? And then if they say yes, you say, well, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go talk to my team and see if we have any other customers that have had that success at that velocity. And I'm going to see if I can find any playbooks or anything that might help you reach that. But right now, I'm just thinking that seems pretty aggressive. If you're confident you can do it, cool. But what we want to do is basically, so what is the definition of customer success? It's when our customers achieve their desired outcome through their relationship with us. But there's a second secret reason for customer success. All right, you ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
It's that, okay. Don't tell anybody. It's between us.
Okay.
While I want my customer to achieve their desired outcome, if they don't, I want them to blame themselves, not us.
That is a secret.
Right? I want them to take responsibility. So we have this whole thing called joint accountability, where it's basically like, like you have to do these things in order for you to be successful. Like if you don't do those things, it's not that our product failed. It's not that we failed. It's that you failed. And it also means that if you cancel and go to another product and you don't do those things, you're going to fail with them too. So I want them to understand what's on their plate. and for us to agree that these are the things that you have to do in order to be successful. So if you want to achieve this very aggressive goal, you're going to have to do all of the things to get you there. We're here. The product will support it. But um, that's a pretty aggressive goal. And if you don't reach it, I don't want you to blame us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's two reasons for that. So one is sort of like just from a business standpoint, like if they, I don't want them to blame us, and if they blame us, they can write us off, and then they might even go leave us a bad review and whatever. But if they take the blame themselves, they might not be like, oh, your product is terrible. They'll understand that they didn't do what they needed to do. Maybe they still churn, but at least they're not going to, they'll go quietly.
Mhm.
But if they don't blame us, they might give us another chance,
Yeah.
right? They go, okay, listen, you were right. That was a super aggressive goal. We didn't reach it, but like your product is great. So what we've done is, for next quarter, we're gonna be more realistic. You're like, okay, cool.
And I
So
think
they give
that's
us another chance.
And I think, Lincoln, that's also the part where we can also show them the constant value that we have been given them to do our best to support towards that aggressive goal. It's like we didn't reach this, but this is what we have given
Absolutely.
to support that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we do that not just at the end when we're trying to save them, but like all throughout the process. Look, if I'm gonna if and again, it depends on the the engagement model that you have with them. If it's a very synchronous engagement model where you're spending a lot of one-on-one time with them, this is a lot easier. As you sort of pull back from that, you get into more asynchronous and more self-service. A lot of this has to be product led. You don't have as much opportunity to engage with them, so some of this becomes a little bit more challenging. But
Yeah.
if you're working with your customers and you're able to have visibility into their progress, and we put together a plan, even if it's a super aggressive plan, or especially if it's a super aggressive plan, then I'm going to monitor their progress. So if I know in order to achieve this goal in this quarter of adding $100,000 in new MRR, I basically know how much MRR they need to close every day to reach that goal.
Oh,
And
this is the question.
right, and if I see that a week into this, or a couple weeks into this, they're not hitting that daily goal, that's a reason to intervene. Now, maybe I intervene, say, hey, I want to check in on not check in just to have a check in, but I want to sync up on your progress towards these goals, because it looks like you guys are off to a little bit of a slow start. You might find out that's okay. That's part of the process. Like, most of the deals are going to close closer to the end of the quarter. Okay, cool. But it's at least maybe a reason to intervene and just resync and make sure that progress is being made,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we look for, is just these reasons to not to check in, never just check in, but to have a reason to sort of resync, or if they look like they're not on course,
What
we
is
can come
what is
in.
in for what is it? What is in for them?
Right. Well,
But
what's exactly. Go ahead.
and Lincoln, I want to hear your what are those top three, top four questions that if I'm in this situation as a customer success manager where I have an account and they're gonna be hangover to me and I need to do this goal discovery because you just gave us the secret, but I also want everyone to know what are those top four, three questions that we can always have printed in
Yep.
front of us for the discovery.
So, okay, I mean, it's super simple. Everything's easier said than done. So the way that we'll bring these
That's
up, I
true.
mean, right. So I
Yeah.
mean, we can sit here and say, oh, it's super simple,
Yeah.
but it's actually probably still simpler, or and actually easier, both simpler and easier than you think it is. Like, the questions are really what and when. So what do you need to achieve and by when? And then the next one is why. This is the one that people don't usually, if they even do this at all, they kind of stop at the what and the when. So the what is the objective and the when is the time frame. That makes up your goal, right? The why is really, really important. And again, the more synchronous your engagement model, you have with your customer, so the more you're actually talking to them, the easier it is to to ask this question. But when you say you want to add or you need to add $1 million or $100,000 in new monthly recurring revenue, I can just take that. That's good. I have a specific objective, and you tell me you need to have that in the next quarter. Okay, I have a specific time frame. But let me ask you this. I could no, I know it's obvious why you want to add more revenue is, like I don't have to really overthink that. But I'm curious, is there a reason that you have that specific goal in mind? That specific number, $100,000 in MRR or 1.2 million a year in ARR? Like, tell me what's going on there. And they'll say, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and this is as you're talking, and I'm hearing the why. And if I'm in the shoes of the customer, it will even make me think or rethink about, is it actually worth it, the goal or the outcome that I really want to achieve? Because that way it makes me think, okay, why? And then I need to think, well, there must be an alignment that I need to do, or it's already planned within the company. There's a
Right.
business objective internally,
Right.
or maybe
So,
not.
and this is what's really interesting. Sometimes you find that there's not, and then if you ask basically why, like why is this important? What happens if you reach this goal? What happens if you don't reach this goal? Right?
Mhm.
And they'll say, well, okay, so we need to add this because we're going for another funding round at the end of Q2, and that 1.2 million in ARR will add $80 million to our company valuation at an 8 to 10x multiple. All right. So it's not about 1.2 million in ARR. It's not about 100,000 in MRR. It's about 80 million in company valuation. Do you think maybe I can use that to motivate action?
100%. You will change
Right?
behavior.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, like, and so anytime they start pushing back, oh, we didn't do that. We kind of missed this goal. It'd be like, okay, that's cool. If I had $80 million on the table, I'd definitely drop the ball too. If you want to be cheeky, right? If you want to be like a
Yeah.
little bit, um, obviously say things that are within the context of whatever cultural and social norms you need to work within. But when I work with, American companies for sure, and I'm me, I mean, I have my personality, so I am what I am. Um, that's what I would say. I'd be like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. You only have $80 million in company valuation on the line. Definitely definitely don't do the things we agreed on. They'll be like, okay. Okay.
And that's great, because then you have a good reminder of,
Yes.
and come on, engage with me again if that's a problem, or when you want to show the value of this is where we are, because this is your objective within the company. You want to reach that 80 million, right? Or that
Yes.
big one
Yeah.
that actually going beyond. But then and here I need to ask you something, Lincoln,
Mhm.
because we always, and this is something I know, that sometimes when we either overthink stuff, or we also simplify too much. So it depends on each person on a day-to-day having a
Sure.
conversation with the customer, right? But now, this sounds perfect for someone who's working on that white glove or that enterprise, and they have 20, 10, 15, 5, 3 enterprise accounts. But what happens with those mid-size or long tail? How can we also make this discovery, or is that just a completely strategy?
No, no, no. These things absolutely matter across the board. It really comes down to the way that you operationalize this. I would say some of this stuff is even more important with your smaller customers because they're the ones that have the most likelihood of disengaging. Like the bigger companies that have like they already have they understand this, they understand their motivation. A lot of times the bigger companies honestly, so without getting too much into like the way the way that we operationalize being kind of backwards. A lot of times we give big companies way more of our energy than is necessary because they
Mhm.
have the internal expertise and experience and but because they pay us a lot, we this goes back to the old school what's in that blue book, the high touch, low touch, tech touch pyramid model where if a customer pays us a lot, they get the high touch engagement, but
But wait,
it
do you
doesn't make
believe in that?
sense.
Do you believe in that? Do you
No,
believe
and
in
I didn't.
segmenting customers and then
No,
delivering? You don't? Ah,
I believe in segmenting customers by shared appropriate experience. Appropriate experience is the other part of desired outcome.
yeah.
The
And we're about to
goal.
get to that part
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So, no, we want to segment customers by shared appropriate experience, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you think about it like this, you may have two customers that pay you a lot, or you may have, let's say you have a bunch of customers that pay you a lot. Half of those customers, and this is, it's not always going to be just half and half, but maybe you have half of those customers that pay you a lot that do need, as part of their appropriate experience, the white glove approach. Okay. The we're they pay us a lot, but what is really, it's not about what they pay us, it's that their appropriate experience based on the characteristics of them as a customer is that they're going to need more engagement, post onboarding, post adoption. They're going to need more synchronous engagement with our team. They're
And
just going
there's
to, they
another
don't have.
discovery behind that then.
Yes, exactly. So, and then you have some of those big customers that pay us a lot that, have the internal expertise, have the experience, just don't need much from us at all. We're never going to let them go completely, but I just don't have to spend as much time with them. They're good to go. Like, in fact, if I tried to give them the same experience as those other big customers, it would be an inappropriate experience. And while that might not cause them to churn, I have seen that directly tied to them not expanding. Like, we're trying so hard to give them like so much attention that they really don't need and don't want. They kind of don't want to grow the relationship with us. So I haven't really seen that result in actual churn. What I see that result in is, um, lower margin customers because we're spending more time and money on them,
Mhm.
and overextended CSMs who get burned out chasing customers to try to engage because they're not engaging on whatever cadence we or our leadership has given us as, like, you have to engage the customer this much,
Yeah,
but like that level of engagement is inappropriate for these customers.
yeah.
But we have some quota of engagement, you know, calls we have to have, emails we have to send. Like, it's just,
Like,
that's not what they want. So then they won't engage, and then we end up like, looking bad because our engagement numbers are low, but the customer is successful. They're growing. Like, they don't want to engage. So
yeah.
operate like that's there's a lot to unpack
We yeah, a lot. But we
there.
do it's interesting to say customers that don't need and want that, because then it can also produce that either customer success fatigue or either communication fatigue or either brand fatigue, because each time you send an email, the next one, if you constantly do, and I feel that has less impact and less impact and less impact than the one in the
I
past.
mean, it takes literally one email sent that, at the wrong time, like with like you teach customers to ignore you very quickly. So you're absolutely right, but it doesn't take a bunch of emails over time for them to sort of disengage. It can be just one email that's like, let's meet, and your request is all about you and it has nothing to do with them, and it's just this, like, clear that you have no idea what's going on and clear that you don't respect their appropriate experience, and they'll be like, I'm done.
And that's
And
the
now,
part where the pressure that we get as customer success. I'm not saying that is necessarily that, but there are other
mm,
factors. But one of them is the pressure that we have on meeting some specific goals or on a specific project that it's the priority number one that yesterday wasn't. But now and now we're getting kind of into the experience side of things, Lincoln. Now
mhm.
we touch on the goal side. Okay, now we went through the questions, the goal discovery, the objective time frame. Okay, now because for you the desired outcome is goal and
Appropriate experience.
proper experience. How can we deliver a proper experience?
Okay. So we have to be really, really clear, really honest about the fact that as a CSM, you are working in an environment that you have likely not defined yourself, right? You
Yeah.
are working in an environment that someone else has defined for you, which means, to a certain extent, the thing you have the most control over is understanding the customer's goal and solving for that. So I might have quotas around, and I'm telling you, if this is the case, you may want to find another place to work. But
Okay. Tell me
you may,
more.
I mean, I'm just be honest with you. Because if you have a certain number of emails you have to send, or a certain number of calls you have to have, or your calendar needs to be, 80% full and blah, blah, blah. Like these are operational metrics that are more vanity metrics for the manager, that makes it look like their team is busy, but they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily, and probably actually don't, have any correlation to good or bad outcomes for your customer. Like
Mhm.
it's just, that's not those aren't the things that matter. It's just like looking at product usage and going, oh, a customer is using our product a lot, I guess they're successful. Are they? Or are they using our product wrong? Or, like I always use like an example of email marketing. Like let's say you have an email marketing product, your customer comes in, uploads a list, sends an email. Are they successful? I mean, they did what the product says it, or what the product does. Functionally, they did everything, but are they successful? Well, not necessarily. I mean, maybe they were trying to get people to their event. People signed up, or people, or they signed up. They uploaded their list. They sent the email. Nobody signed up for their event.
Mhm.
So from a usage standpoint, they were successful, right? They successfully used
That's
the
what
product.
data want show us. Yeah.
Right. But from an outcome standpoint, they were not successful. They didn't get anybody to show up for their event. And we kind of look at the same thing from, customer success manager. Like, hey, is a CSM, is their calendar full? Are they having meetings? Are they sending emails, or, what, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. Okay. But what does retention look like? What does expansion look like? Like the metrics that actually matter. Now, I'm not saying we don't want to measure operational metrics, and there it's not that there aren't things that we should be looking at, but there's very often things that don't seem to have any correlation to actual outcomes that are measured, and a head of customer success who's not a leader, and they're not a coach, they're just a manager. They just like look at a spreadsheet and they say, all right, this CSM is hitting all their objectives, and this CSM over here isn't. But this CSM that's actually having all these meetings and all these calls, the NRR for their book of business is 89%, and this CSM over here who's missing all of, they keep missing the mark on their meetings, and they have 120% NRR in their book of business, but we don't care about those things. We care about the operational metrics. This is the problem. So my point is, like, as a CSM, you have to recognize whether or not you're being managed on things that matter. And if you're not, go work for a head of CS that understands what actual success is, and how to make it work. Because you're working in an environment that's probably not conducive to your long-term success. But you're there. You're
Yeah.
there right now. So what do we do? The main thing you can do, like, is focus on the customers, on their desired outcome, but really on the goal piece, right? So understanding what they're trying to accomplish, by when, and the why. So that if you have a quota of meetings you have to have, if you have a quota of meetings you have to have, making those meetings about your customer and about their goals and about their progress towards those goals means that your customers are more likely to show up and be engaged in those meetings.
And that's when the proper experience comes into play.
Right. I mean, look, at some point you may have customers pushing back on you, but a customer is whose appropriate experience is not to have too many meetings. If the meetings are about them, even if it's sort of an inappropriate experience, like they don't want to have as many meetings as you're asking, if it's about them and their progress and like their goals and their evolving goals, and they're more likely to show up. Even if they would prefer not to have the meeting. But if you're requesting a meeting with them because you have to hit some sort of number, and the meeting is about checking in, right? Just, I want to check in with you. If it's about product updates or a review of account activity, they're probably not going to show up, because their appropriate experience is fewer meetings. But if you have to have meetings, or you have to push for meetings, and you know what their goal is, and you know why that goal matters. Hey, let's get on a call real quick. I want to sync up with you. I want to make sure you guys are on track for that 80 million valuation bump. Okay. Like, I don't really want to have a meeting, but I'm intrigued. You could even, if you have a product update that you want to share with them, then you could frame it. Hey, I know you guys, I mean, we're coming up on, let me see, we're halfway through the quarter. I want to make sure you guys are on track to hit that 80 million. We just had a new product update. I want to show you that because I think it'll help accelerate your path to that 1.2 million. That'll get you that, like.
And you're not being salesy. You're recommending.
Right. Maybe it's an upsell. Maybe it's just a product, something they already paid for that we just released. I have to tell my customer about this product update. I have to have, 25 product update meetings, right? In order to get people to show up, I just need to frame it.
So it's basically of doing it as simple as possible for them.
Yeah, make it about them. People don't care. Okay, this is another thing, man, that I mean,
you're in a safe space here.
This is a safe space. This is just between us. Listen, I'm going to tell you something that will hurt the feelings of the people that build your product. But as a CSM, you have to understand nobody cares about your product.
Huh.
I mean,
why is that?
Because what they care about is the thing that the product is doing for them. Okay? They care about the product in the context of the outcome that they're looking for.
Right.
That's it. So if all you do is talk about the product and you don't talk about it in the context of what they're trying to accomplish, they don't care.
But I also feel here, Lincoln, that it depends on the stakeholder and their influence and their role, isn't it? There won't be, there might be the stakeholder who never uses the product and may not care much about it, only results. But then it's the other one that actually uses it on a daily basis that might feel that friction of if there's not a proper experience or a good product.
Yeah. Even then, I guarantee you that if your power user, if your champion, if your admin could accomplish the goal either for their company or whatever their personal goal is in their role, if they could accomplish that without your product, they would.
That's true.
It's not nothing. This is not I'm not saying anything bad about your product, and I'm not saying that it's your product versus a competitor. I'm just saying like we just have to understand that and of course, depending upon what your product does, you may be more important in their world than other products. But at the end of the day, it's not about your product. It's about them and the outcome. So if you want to get them on a call to talk about your product, because that's what you need to do. And yes, we need to get them to use our product. That's what we sell. But I'm just saying from the customer's perspective, they care. Let's just say this. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. Maybe they do care about your product. But you know what they care about even more?
The outcome.
Themselves. Themselves. And what they get out of this. So, which is a really important distinction possibly between the company's outcome, the customer company's outcome, and the individual
person.
Yeah. I mean, like the individual contributor that you're working with, yes, they want their company to get 80 million in new valuation, right? But they don't have equity. It's always better to work for a company that's going up in value than down. But they don't have equity. They're not going to get a piece of that. But they do want to get a promotion. They do want to look good in their role.
They want us being seen as the person who actually brought this product into the company, and it's
right
because of their decision.
Exactly. And the other thing about decision makers, so like the people that bring the product in, if that's who you're working with, you have to remember that they have invested not just the money that they pay you, but they have invested their political and social capital inside the company to bring this product in. And if it fails, they are going to look bad.
The buyer's remorse.
Yeah. And if it's successful though, like they'll spread the word and maybe there's a land sort of expand opportunity there. Yeah. But you have to take into consideration the humans that we're working with as well. So there's a lot going on there, but bottom line is if you just kind of keep in mind the customer and the people in the customer company, like that they care more about themselves than they do your product, then if you need to get people on a call, if you need them to get them to respond to an email or have a chat or whatever, like just frame things with what they're trying to accomplish in mind, which means you have to kind of go up, kind of go back in the life cycle a little bit and find out what that is. So what are they trying to accomplish by when and why?
Yeah.
And if you didn't do that before, do it now. Right now. So let's make this actionable. You've listened to this podcast, you've come this far. I can't believe you've made it through hearing me. I mean, the podcast is awesome, but here I am ruining it. If you made it this far, congratulations. You have more patience than most people. You but what you should do from right now. So like the next meeting that you have with your customer is if you've never talked about their goals, say, hey, I realize, we've been doing this stuff for a while. We've been working together for a while. I realize I don't actually know what you're trying to accomplish. We've never really talked about like not just, your usage of our product, but like what are your goals? I want to make sure that you're using our product in a way that's helping you accomplish your goals. So,
And it
what
makes you seem human too, I feel. It makes you seem
yeah, yeah,
human and also that you actually want to help the customer. The authority
absolutely.
side.
You're not you've just changed your positioning
Yeah.
from maybe from a product specialist or
And
somebody that
reactive.
yes, to now it's like, oh, I actually care about what you're doing.
Let's be
Um,
strategic.
yeah. So you can start this right now. Just ask them what they're trying to accomplish. And then if they give you a goal that's kind of high level, just push it a little bit and say, okay, you want to increase sales. Okay, but by how much? Like now, you talked about blockers. There's there may be an objection that you get or a blocker, however you want to refer to it, where they don't they don't want to tell you their goal.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like I would say 90% of the time or better. Um, I venture to say 100%, but it's not gonna be for any security reason. It's not gonna be for any secret reason. If they say, "Oh, I I don't know. I'm not really sure how to answer that," or I'm not comfortable talking about that. It's because they've never because a software vendor has not asked them this.
And
So they're just not used
they're
to
not
it.
used to it. Yeah, they don't know.
Right. So you say, "Listen, I get it. You know, of course, we have agreements in place. All of your data is in our system. Like your privacy is everything. So whatever you tell me, like it's just between us. And the only reason I want to know this is so that I can make sure that you are using the product in the way that is going to help you achieve your goals most efficiently." And
It's not about me, it's about you.
right, I'm just trying to understand what you want to accomplish here so that I can help you do that. And it's amazing. And I listen to calls all the time. I listen to sales calls. Salespeople do this. Like this is what salespeople do. This is the intel that salespeople get from their customer, from their prospect, is what are you trying to accomplish? So prospects have no problem telling salespeople this.
Yeah.
So why do you think they would have a problem telling us, whom they should trust even more, right? Because we're not trying to sell them anything. We're just trying to make them successful. So any objection you get to that is probably just going to be like, well, I mean, sales. I'm used to salespeople asking no CSM or account manager or whatever has ever asked me that. So I'm just you kind of caught me off guard. The other thing is your point of contact, or at least the person that you're talking to right now, they might not know. So what you say is, okay, listen, before our next call, I want you to go find out. Because I'll tell you, the customers that I work with for whom I understand what their goal is, which is, I know what the objective is, I know what the time frame is. I'm able to help them be successful far more often. Okay. So you need to know why you're doing this internally. So I would, and then if the more like, if you work with a particular type of individual contributor on a team, and that the person that would know the goal is like, their their manager or the manager of this other team, you can tell them, say, hey, most of the time, you know, my customers need to go talk to the marketing manager
Yeah.
because the marketing manager knows what this goal is. So schedule a meeting with them, go talk to them about that. And then on our next call, we'll take that goal and we'll kind of overlay it on your usage right now. We'll make sure that you're using it in the right way. And if not, we'll create a plan to get you there. You can do that right now.
So the actionable step is ask the what, the why, and the when. Lincoln, it's unfortunately time to start wrapping up today's episode. Like I can literally stay for more hours and recording even a series of this, because I think that it is us as the individual collaborators who actually do the impact, and we need the support of our leaders to being able to do that, and that's another topic. But I appreciate all the insights that you have been given us. There is just one more question before we let you go.
Okay.
Are we missing anything? Did we miss?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, we need about 3 or 4 more hours to just, kind of scratch the surface here. No, I mean, look, as an individual contributor, you have control over, at the very least, understanding what the customer's goal is and trying to solve for that. You may have an experience that you have to have with the customer sort of dictated to you. Like you have to have this many meetings, you have to have this many calls. Okay, fine. That may not be the appropriate experience for the customer. That may be out of your control. So the thing that is in your control 100% of the time is finding out what their goal, even if nobody else on your team is doing this, even if this isn't part of any playbook that you're using, you still have that. You can still have that as part of your conversation with your customer. What are they trying to accomplish, by when, and why? And that's going to help you engage with them. Yes, there's a lot of missing stuff here. There's a lot more context, but that's it. And you can start doing that right now, right when we're done here. And that'll help make you a better CSM. And
you also said that it doesn't have to be all in once. Sometimes it takes like a couple of meetings, a couple of emails to build that relationship into how to not how to discover the business outcome, but how to discover the personal outcome.
Oh, for sure. So yes, you don't have to try to rush this. You don't have to sit there and be like, hey, I have this whole questionnaire I want to go through with you. I would just have some questions. So we have those basic goal discovery questions. Have some other questions that you fit your context with your customer, and just over time, maybe you have a goal for yourself within the first 3 or 4 weeks of a customer relationship. I want to have the answers to all of these questions, and I'm going to bring some up on a call, and I'm going to send an email to follow up and ask a question, and maybe I'll send them a message some other way, and I'll build this up over time. We're in this for the long haul with the customer, right? We don't have to do everything at first. In fact, we want to make sure we don't overwhelm our customers, right? Just hit them right out of the gate with 1,000 questions. So yeah, you can build this over time. Nothing wrong with that. So, but these are pretty basic questions. Don't overthink them, and if the person you're talking to doesn't have the answer, just tell them, give them some ideas on how to get the answer, but tell them it's really important that we have that. So again, we can make sure that they're using our product in a way that's going to help them achieve their goals. It's amazing what happens when you take into consideration the other person's, like what they're trying to accomplish. It really changes everything. It changes your position as a CSM in their mind. They look at you now as that trusted advisor, the thing that everybody talks about, trusted advisor, authority positioning, all that stuff. When you start talking about them, it elevates you. When you're talking about your product, you kind of just you're not elevated. You're kind of demoted to just being like a product specialist in their mind, and you're not really strategically valuable.
Strategically valuable. Ooh.
Yep.
That's that. There's no best way to end today's conversation, Lincoln. With it has been the longest episode. This is a record Guinness of more than 1 hour of valuable each second of the insights that you have been giving us. Thank you very much for that. Thank you all for your passion, your energy, and all the resources will be in the description of today's episode, where you can go and also see the link to purchase Maximizing Lifetime Value, the book from Lincoln, also the podcast, and so many other resources that we will deliver here. Lincoln, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man. Take care.
And remember, everyone, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.